Landlords are getting hit hard as the cost of homeowners insurance has skyrocketed in the last few years. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a couple of interesting articles for you today, and they have to do with the cost of insurance, okay? Now, this is a big issue for landlords. Now, I personally faced this issue back in 2023. I had to switch insurance companies because basically my premiums for all of my properties that were in Kansas City doubled in 1 year, cutting my cash flow to almost nothing, and it was just horrible. Okay, so I shopped around and I was able to find a insurance provider that, while it was more expensive than what I was paying a few years back, it was cheaper, much cheaper than what my current insurance company had been charging, right? So this is an issue that a lot of landlords have faced as homeowners insurance has gone up through the roof. You know, there's been a whole bunch of natural disasters, but that's not it. That's not the only reason why costs are increasing, okay? There's a whole ton of new government regulations out there. The pandemic really hurt these companies, and now everything, has increased as well due to inflation. So yeah, we're getting hit hard. We're getting hit very hard, and we can only raise the rents so much to cover these costs. That's why I tell people, hey, when a landlord is raising your rent, you have no clue, zero clue what our expenses are and why we are raising the rent. Now, in my case personally, I saw my insurance rates double in a single year, okay? And that was absolutely ridiculous to me. So some landlords, they would have just said, hey, I'm gonna have to increase my rents to make up for it. Some wouldn't have been able to because they live under rent control policies that don't allow them to set the prices for the rent that they need to charge in order to cover their expenses. So yeah, it's a big issue. I wanted to cover the topic because, I have been hearing that a lot of landlords are going through troubles due to these costs. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Have you experienced an increase in insurance costs in the last few years? And if you're a small landlord, big landlord, doesn't matter. I am 99% sure that you have, okay? Maybe a few of you have gotten away lucky and have not had a big increase in insurance costs. But man, I feel like everyone I talk to has said the same thing, okay? They've said, my costs have increased a lot, okay? Even the people I know who own one single family home, yeah, they've even experienced increases that were pretty high. So anyway, let me get into this first article and let you know what it says. This article is coming from fastcompany.com, and it says, the home insurance shock hitting the housing market has landlords concerned too. 80% of landlords in Resi Club's latest survey say they're concerned about future home insurance increases. And, obviously, you're always worried. I've never had an easy time with insurance when it comes to my properties. It is a mess, okay? But, the costs have really gone up a lot recently. So anyway, let's get into the article. Earlier this year, a friend of mine saw the monthly home insurance and property taxes on his Fort Lauderdale, Florida rental property, which he bought during the pandemic frenzy, increased by $500 per month. It cut his cash flow in half. He isn't alone. The average U.S. home insurance premium rate rose 11.3% in 2023, according to S&P Global. That was double the 6.6% increase in 2022 and far above the pre-pandemic increases in 2018 and 2019, which they say are 3.2% and 2.5%. Among the landlords polled in the Resi Club Ground Floor Housing Investor Survey conducted this month, 80% say they're concerned about future increases in home insurance. Of those, 37% are very concerned. And yeah, you can count me amongst those who are very concerned because it seems like the problem only gets worse as time goes by. Now, obviously, I talked about my Kansas City properties before. I sold all of them. I don't own any properties in Kansas City anymore. I don't own any multifamily anymore. And I only own single family homes here in Omaha, Nebraska, where I live, right? And so I get some of the lower insurance cost increases because I'm only focused on single family rentals right now. It seems like when you own commercial properties and when you own a multifamily, your insurance costs are way higher. I mean, at least it seemed like it to me. Maybe other landlords could chime in on that, right? But to me, it seems like I paid a lot more for insurance when I was owning multifamily properties, okay? Home insurance premiums have been increasing faster in coastal states, particularly around the Gulf, with the average Texas homeowner experiencing one of the largest increases last year, 20.3%. That said, these increases are happening far beyond the coast. According to Resi Club's reporting, the rise in home insurance premiums is due not only to climate risk, but also to housing and construction inflation. Replacement and repair costs have soared, and insurers are trying to keep up, although some state insurance companies are slowing the process. And see, that's the problem right there, okay? We have state insurance commissions who are trying to slow they say they're slowing the process of replacement and repair costs have soared. And, basically what I'm reading is these state agencies are trying to keep the insurance prices low by throwing in government regulations. And what have I always said about artificial government price controls, okay? They can bankrupt companies because they don't allow them to be able to raise their costs enough in order to be profitable. And that's what this is really about, okay? Insurance will always be available. It might not be cheap. It might be extremely expensive, right? But you can't have the government step in there and say, oh, no. You can't charge this much money because then the people won't be able to pay it. Like, well, yeah, but we won't be able to make money. And speaking of that, right, I want to get into the second article I have today, right? And it's about State Farm and it's about California. You should have known, you should have seen this one coming, right? And when I talk about artificial government price controls over companies, right, this is what we see here. The nightmare, the ridiculousness that's going on in California. So anyway, let me get into this article so I can explain a little bit better. This article is coming from ktvu.com, and it says, State Farm requests home insurance rate increase in California. Yeah, because they have to ask the government if they want to increase the cost of homeowners insurance there. And the reason is pretty simple, right? Natural disasters, we've heard about all the wildfires. State Farm lost huge amounts of money out there. And they just, they're upside down. Their books are upside down, and they cannot increase their rates enough, according to California law, in order to cover the costs. So anyway, let me get into it. State Farm is asking for a home insurance rate increase in California. This week, State Farm General filed a request for a 30% increase for homeowners, 52% for renters, and 36% for condo owners, the San Francisco Chronicle reported. If approved, the rate increase would be State Farm's largest in at least 7 years, according to the company's filings. Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara told the Chronicle that the request raises serious questions about its financial condition. State Farm last raised its rates by an average of 20% statewide in March. At the time, the company announced it would not renew about 30,000 homeowner policies in order to reduce its exposure. For the past year, it also hasn't offered new homeowner policies for the same reason. So, if you watch California news, State Farm basically is making an exit from California. They're not offering new policies within the state, and then they are non-renewing a bunch of people who live in very high-risk area. I'm assuming that these people live in areas where there's a high wildfire risk. I'm just assuming, I'm not saying that that's the case, but it probably is the case, okay? So State Farm is losing a lot of money. They had to ask the Insurance Commission for a 20% increase in March. Okay, March was only a few months ago, and now they need another 30% increase. That is how bad things are there, right? And what we might see is an exit, total exit, where they're not renewing anyone's State Farm policies and canceling their policies, right? in the entire state because the risk is too high. They're not able to make any money. The insurance people in California might not give them the rate increase that they need in order to be actual functioning business within the state. So basically, the state government price controls, right, just like rent control, destroyed this business. That's what we saw. This business got a company as big as State Farm can't operate under artificial government price controls. So when I talk about rent control, and keep in mind, these are socialist policies. These are socialist policies. They failed in so many different socialist countries. Yet here we are in the United States, and we have a state that thinks that, oh, it's going to work this time. It's going to work. Hey, you know what? Life isn't easy. Things are going to get more expensive, right? That's just the way it happens. We can either have no insurance over here or expensive insurance over there. I'd rather have expensive insurance than no insurance, okay? Anyway, I'm going to put a link to these two articles, and I want you to let me know, what's going on with your situation. Put a comment down below. Let me know if your insurance costs have gone up. What do you think? If you're in California, do you think State Farm is going to stick around the state, or if they're going to do a full exit?